Plenty of new information coming in just over the last 12 hours. Thank you for being with me. It is Thursday, January 29th, 2026. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Not here to waste your time, valuing your time, so let's get right to it. It is this system, of course, the nor'easter develop. I want to show you the 40-70 point, very critical in forecasting these winter systems for the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. So I want to cover that, the track, and what it means for us exactly. We'll cover the snow totals. It's starting to get locked in. Matt and I are working behind the scenes, looking at the models. We're leaning on kind of a blended version of model this time. A couple storm systems ago was the American, and then the last one more of the European. This one kind of the overall blend of the models, and you see how we look at very different ones, but then we tweak things behind the scenes based on what we're seeing in the environment. We actually kind of look out the window, if you will. Very important, often forgot. All right, let's get a look at this system. It will be wrapping up, strengthening right off the coast of the Carolinas as we work our way through the weekend. It's going to be a high coastal impact. The track of this, the center, this is why I'm leading with the winds. The winds not only highly impactful along the coast, but where the center of this goes, so critical in kind of what happens. And I mentioned the 40-70 point. We're talking about a lat long line sitting right over here. It looks like it's going to be a miss to that. When it passes that 40-70 or kind of goes right on top of it, what often happens is we get a big snow for the Northeast, but this is going to be a little bit more south and east of that once it builds. So you can see it forming here. The initial concern will be those winds still gusting to 70 miles per hour. We're going to have that in Duck. We'll be watching out for 50 mile per hour gusts, parts of the Tidewater area, watching Christopher, Newport, Delmarva. We got you covered, but this should be a miss just south and east of that 40-70 point. I know it's a little sciencey, it's almost not sciencey in a way, but with that said, it is going to be very close to the point, so any shift closer to land could bring a bigger snow on shore, but it looks like it may scrape by the Northeast, and then significant impacts back through the Atlantic region of Canada, which we also cover on this channel. The big concern will be any small shift to this. So we're going to put out additional updates. If you are subscribed to this channel, and so many new, this channel is spreading like crazy. I appreciate you getting it out there. If you're subscribed, you'll get those updates first. So if we see something behind the scenes, we'll put out that update and let you know exactly what we're seeing. I want to cover the snow totals though in this video. I want to start to cover that. We're getting closer to this system. It starts to form through our Friday as we work our way into Saturday. So a short time from now, you see it building right off the coast. The heaviest of Bermuda clocked with some of that rain as we work our way into Saturday. There's some of that snow. Southern Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, back through parts of Georgia, mainly east of Atlanta. Snow flurries will be a potential Saturday night and Sunday morning. Northern and central Florida could be some of the snow flurries if there's a little leftover moisture. Then you see the center of it here, enough offshore. If this were to hold, this is the American model. I'll show you the European in a second. Not huge differences, but if the American model holds, that really keeps everything away from the Northeast. We keep it in perspective on this channel. It's a non-hype channel. That would keep it away, but still bringing those bigger impacts by the time we get into Monday back through the Atlantic region to Canada. The European model, though, is a little bit closer. With that, I want to show you that in just a moment. Let me zoom down, though. Everything in pretty good agreement with that snow starting to kick in Saturday morning. Look at Knoxville, Asheville, some areas that were hit very hard with some of the ice. Snow watching Athens, Augusta, Columbia, Florence. It could start to come down heavy in Florence. Charleston as well. Outer Banks, watching over toward the Lost Colony, Kitty Hawk. For that very heavy snow, we'll be monitoring Kernsville back through Raleigh right here. Here's Greenville. You get toward Rocky Mount. Been to a nice church right through Rocky Mount across I-95 swinging there. Here's Jacksonville, and you see back through here the Outer Banks. Here's Virginia Beach. There's some of the snow. Now, as this builds offshore, a little enhancement to it as we work our way into Saturday night, Sunday morning. That's when it could be heaviest because the system gets stronger offshore. Huge divide. This will be a big split. Fayetteville, maybe Sunday morning, nothing, while we're getting clocked as we swing toward Morehead City. Any little shift, though, could build that back toward Raleigh. So we'll be watching that as we swing back toward the Raleigh-Durham area, even Winston-Salem. We're still monitoring everyone. And then as we work our way through Sunday morning near the Outer Banks and we start to draw our attention toward the Cape of the Islands, the American model had that snow back toward Providence a couple runs ago, but now it's showing it a little bit more offshore. That's been a shift. The shift has been away with the American model, not quite yet the European model for the Cape and the Islands. We're going to zoom down across parts of New England, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Western Massachusetts, Eastern Mass, Rhode Island. We got you covered, Long Island through New Jersey. Then we get into Sunday afternoon. There's the rain watching Nova Scotia. If it stays like the American model, New Brunswick, not a lot. Prince Edward Island on the edge, but Nova Scotia is seeing some of that snow and then eventually working its way back toward Newfoundland and the Avalon Peninsula. Now, as we take a look here, Saturday, 7 p.m., there's the center of this starting to build. This here, though, is a different model. This here is the European model. And we let you know what we know and what we don't know. We're not quite sure yet the exact positioning of this, although it's starting to come together some, and we're starting to get a good handle on where there will at least be some of that snow. But this one's a little bit closer. And look at that snow kind of brushing the north coast of parts of Central Florida. Daytona Beach over by the Speedway, there could actually be some snow flurries as we work our way to Saturday night and Sunday morning. That is a possibility, not just over on the Gulf side, but on the Atlantic side for some of the snow. Now, as we work our way, this again, the European model, the blue would be some of that snow. This stuff here, mainly just some snow showers, nothing crazy. It would be Athens, Anderson, Winston-Salem over by Wake, swinging back toward Raleigh, Fayetteville, Jacksonville with the heavier stuff, Norfolk, Richmond. And you see here the difference, and we're not quite sure yet the difference. You take Richmond here, the European model would bring in some snow, but the American model really wouldn't. It would just have it clip Virginia Beach. That's a good sampling of kind of the line. So it's going to be kind of a distance like this that is going to be just really hard to see how this shakes out. So we'll really try to fine tune it. We're doing the best we can. Snow is not easy. As we work our way into Saturday night, Sunday morning, it pulls it offshore, and then it would kind of scrape by extreme coastal sections as you get toward the Jersey Shore, back through Delmarva, maybe Rehoboth Beach, Ocean City, Maryland. I almost said a bad word there. And then swinging our way back through the rest of Delmarva. You see it right there. There's some of the blue on the map, maybe clipping by Long Island. A lot of maybes in here, I know. I don't like the maybes, but that's just where this stands. And you see that fine line. This is really heavy stuff. That would be just offshore, and that's why I mentioned a little shift back toward the north would bring in snow and it could push it into parts of I-95. So we're watching all across Long Island, watching New York, the boroughs. Not as much, we're not talking about much, we watch all of New York, not as much upstate. We're not highlighting Pennsylvania as much at this point, of course, keeping an eye on everyone. Hartford will be on the edge. We'll see how it shakes out. Providence, back through New Bedford, Fall River, Newport, not quite sure yet, but as it lifts to the north, it looks like we will get some snow. Now, here's a good statement. Remember the American model I just showed you, it did not have snow in Providence and Newport. It barely had anything in Falmouth. But you get over toward Chatham, so you get toward Nauset Beach, for example, there could be some heavy snow, maybe not as much over toward Surf Dry Beach. But with that said, this model, the European model, is showing that snow over toward, say, Shore Street as you get over toward Surf Drive, and then lifting up toward the South Shore. Marshfield, for example, would have some of the snow with the European model, but Marshfield would not have the snow with the American model, and that's just what we're dealing with at this point. And I know you understand that. Worcester would be on the edge of it. Keep an eye on Springfield, too. And then as we swing to the north, the European model will bring high impacts of some of that snow back from the Avalon Peninsula and Nova Scotia. And this here would include parts of New Brunswick, parts of Maine, and Prince Edward Island. So that's the big difference. So you could really see the difference that we're dealing with. It's not unusual to have that difference, and it's our job not just to look at the models. I do believe at this point it's actually a blend between both of those. So I believe that's a blend. So with that, this is what we're looking at behind kind of what Matt and I are leaning on for some of the totals. So you can see as of now as it stands, and we'll adjust it as far as some of the snow totals go. And this takes us well on time. I just want to get past the event. But this could lend itself to 9 to 10 inches of snow in parts of North Carolina, right? Is it quite in Winston-Salem? I'm not quite sure yet. But where it snows, as I said in a couple videos ago, it really snows. It's going to be kind of on the edge. Maybe it's a little bit more over toward Raleigh. Maybe it's not as much. Keeping an eye on Southern Virginia, not losing sight of Roanoke. West Virginia, we're not looking at any, maybe around Beckley. Maybe we get some snow depending on how it shakes out. But this core here, point being in the yellow, that's where we could see 5 to 6 inches plus of some of that snow, and that's looking more and more likely. And I mentioned that several days ago, that North Carolina was going to get some snow. That is what we're going to see out of this. Keeping an eye on parts of Georgia and, of course, South Carolina. Columbia, we're going to be on the edge of it, more likely over toward Florence. Watching over towards south of the border, if you're familiar with that, if you know, you know. Watching out for some of the snow that will be coming down. And then you can see here the blend of it. It's just that close call. I'm not seeing a giant, it would have to be a significant shift at this point to bring a significant snow to DC. It could happen, but it would just have to be a significant shift. Same thing from D.C. back through Baltimore, Annapolis, we're on the edge. Same thing, Philly. New York, though, would only take a small shift. Even Philly, for the most part, a smaller shift could bring in a significant snow. A smaller shift could really bring some heavier snow back through Providence, Hartford, watching over toward New Haven, Waterbury, and then we swing here. But this is kind of what we're going with as of now. We're just on the edge of it. New Haven, back through Hartford. Springfield may get a couple inches on the backside of this over toward Southborough, Worcester, watching that. Here's Lowell. You get over toward UMass, potential of 6 to 7 inches of some of the snow right through here, but not totally sure yet. This could be just a very glancing blow for the Cape, or we could be talking about 13 inches, and that's kind of what we're leaning to at this point. Maybe it's on the high side, but that's what we're leaning to just because of the fact with this one, where it's going to come down, it's going to lend itself to about a foot of snow because it's going to be a strengthening system over the water as it kind of lifts up toward the north. So Vermont, not as much. New Hampshire, watching southern New Hampshire. We're going to keep an eye on everyone. In the south coast of Maine, right now we're painting in about 3 to 4 inches of rain, maybe, or snow, maybe as high as 5 inches of snow. We'll see. And then keeping an eye on southern New Brunswick and then swinging back toward parts of Nova Scotia. I know some of the data glitches out here, but you can see some of the totals that could press 40 centimeters of some snow if this takes more of a route, a little bit more like the European model, more of that kind of route. Now, as we look our way forward from today, watching the cold going into the weekend, Saturday and Sunday morning, a deep cold across the deep south again, exactly what is not needed. And we're talking about record lows in Florida. It is going to get cold. I've been thinking back. I think this is going to be, could be the coldest, what are we, 2026 now? Maybe about, it could be more than 15 years in some spots. I believe we had some snow flurries in parts of central Florida in 2012. Also maybe back in 2010 and 2007, if I have that correct. And it's a similar scenario to that, but there's been a long gap between really freezing point and below, and we are going to be freezing or below throughout much of Florida. We could be down in the upper 30s over toward Miami and down in the 20s. In Orlando by Disney in the 20s, and yes, that closes the water parks, no doubt, with the chill that will be around. The wind chill, single digits, a possibility in parts of central Florida, and of course, back through North Florida. So the winter storm really locking in. It looks like a mist to the south and toward the east of that point that I mentioned. If it's south and east, that means a lesser of a snow for more of the, not as much snow for the northeast, I'll put it that way. But we need to, again, that small shift in the track could cause some big issues with that snow. So we're not losing sight of that. And that's why I mentioned if you subscribe, we'll put out those updates. But either way, these are huge coastal concerns, and we've been highlighting that. The high seas, the strong winds, we know that, especially this time of year with nor'easters from the Outer Banks back through the Cape, the islands, from Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Block Island, Long Island, watching everything. We got everyone covered here best we can. So I'll be going through your comments. We'll try to answer some of the questions. This channel's kind of growing quickly, so we're doing our best to get to those comments, and we will keep you posted as we go forward. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being part of Snow Bros.